So what I'm going to do is show you how I approached it. So I'm going to go into Photoshop. And really, before we get too far into this, it is a lesson in how to take and obviously change the orientation of the banner, redesign it for a different orientation. That's part of this whole lesson. Another part is how do you work with some fairly complicated PSD mockups. But the big thing, and it's been going on since the beginning of the project, is we're really working Photoshop. Okay, this is not your Mike Denisenko's Photoshop we're doing. It's a much more involved level. His is a beginner's Photoshop, and you can see what we're doing with ours is much more elaborate. So that's not a put down for Mike. He's supposed to teach beginners. This is the kind of, what I want you to see is the way in which I use Photoshop, and then see how it's used as a sketching design tool and not just, a photo manipulation tool. So we're going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to share. That's Capto, Photoshop. All right, everybody sees my green banner?
Yep.
Good. So that was the original one. Oops. Sorry, I got to rearrange these a little bit. Okay, that's the original one. And that's the one we took over to spot color. So it's not the final step from the banner. It was the step before we went to spot color. So I took that, and then I rotate it. Demo horizontal. And that's just a simple rotation. Okay, nothing's been changed, just turned it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Through many steps here, I eventually got it to this point. And that is, we're going to pick this up again in the first recording I'm going to show you. But you can see I've taken it now, and it's still horizontal. It still has the same elements. I added a couple of elements because it's, it's a bus advertisement. And done some manipulation of layers simply because you just don't take it and turn it sideways. Once you turn it sideways, it presents you with a whole new world of design decisions to make. So far, so good. We're going to take it and we're going to put it on this bus. So it's going to look like this when you open it up. And then we're also going to need, that's one PSD. And the other file I said we needed to concentrate on was 7 PSD. It's a separate file from one. And it looks like this, because you need that to find out the relationship between your poster and the elements of the bus. Okay? So once I reach this point, I'm going to now play the recorded session. That'll show you how things move about. I'll try and explain as we're going. If you need to have me stop and repeat something, please do, because like I said, this is a very important Photoshop lesson. Just using the Photoshop as a design sketch. So don't let it go by. It is recorded so you can see it later, but the recordings that I have don't have the voiceover on them, because I'll provide the voiceover right now. So I need to go to what I have here is the banner rotated. And it's just a background layer, and I'm going to drop on top of it. What I did was, now watch the layers. Do you guys know how to transfer a whole bunch of layers from one Photoshop file to another? Yeah, no?
Group them.
Not really.
Okay, what I'm going to do is, if you look right here, all there is a layer 1 and a background here. I really need to design this poster, I needed to take all 20 layers or whatever it took to build this thing from this file, left side of the bus, demo horizontal. Oh, I can't touch on that one. Sorry. We'll get back to it later. I'll show you. Remind me to show you later. But what I did was, rather than copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, to put it into the one that I'm going to be building on, I took and created a flat one single layer. And then what you do is, like I said, I can't connect to these because it's a QuickTime movie. But in the other file, I just click, shift click, all the layers lit up, and I take them and I drag them into this file, and all your layers will come in. And once they do come in, then what I try and do is keep them all together, size it all, and lock it down. But I can go over that part later if we need to. So here, just moving stuff out of the way, the history there. Okay, I brought in all those layers. So if you look, you can see all of a sudden there's not one black background layer here. I've got all these layers that used to exist in the previous version of this. You get all that? Do you understand how that I did bring over all the layers at once?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. You gotta help me out and shout, because like I said, all I can see is the QuickTime movie. So what I need to do next is I want to keep everything intact and resize this as close as I can to the big banner, which is also approximately the same size as the bus. So I'm going to go to Command T, which is a free transform tool, and I took it and dragged it, all the corners of it, until it more than filled. It's a little bit over in a few spots, but now I've got this banner that is basically the same size as it was before, turned 90 degrees, so everything looks wrong, but at least fits into an area that's the same size as 7.psd. Remember that one, that flat side of the bus? That's where that size was taken from. So the banner and the bus are, fortunately, I got lucky. I picked one that's almost exactly the same size as the bus. If yours is not, you still have to redesign no matter what. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, you can see in the history over here, nudge. I'm just moving it a little bit here and there to make sure it covers all the edges. And now that right there, remember 7PSD? Got to respond, guys. The file 7PSD. Hello?
My mic working? Yeah.
Do you have 7PSD in that Graphic River folder?
Yep.
Okay, just double click that, open it up. Does it look like the thing in the middle of my banner?
Yes.
Okay, so what I did was, I cheated. I took a screenshot. I didn't need all the extra stuff above and below, and all I'm going to use this for is a tracing layer. So I took a screenshot. On the Mac, it's Shift-Command-4. I'm not sure what it is on the Shift-Command-4 gives me the crosshair, so I don't get the whole screen. I get just the area I select. So I selected the bus. And you can see I pasted it into a new layer here in the horizontal banner. Everybody got that part?
Yep.
Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is transform that. I need to go to Command T and pull this thing. And when I do, I pull it, Command T gives me the handles. And I pull it out so it's virtually the same size as my banner. Okay? Now, the thing is, even though it was transparent in the 7PSD file, the screenshot, even though it shows the checkerboard, is not. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my magic wand tool. And I zoomed in on one white square with the magic wand tool, shift click on the gray square next to it. So I have a white and a gray selected. So you can't really see it very well. It's underneath the bus. Oops. Right over in this area. But I've got, with 2 clicks of the magic wand, I've got a white and a gray. And then I'm going to tell it I want to select similar. You guys ever use select similar in Photoshop?
Only in
Under obviously
Illustrator.
select. And you can choose a tolerance. So if it's 64, it's got a lot of tolerance. If it's white or kind of grayish white or off-white or pinky white, it's going to pick them all up. If you lower that, the more you lower that tolerance, the more exact the selections are going to be. So I had a very low tolerance, I think of either 4 or 8. I've been told I have a very low tolerance anyway. But I've got a white and a gray and a low tolerance for other colors. And then you see down here it says similar. I'm going to go up to the Photoshop command, select similar, select and then similar. And you can see now all of this has been selected. What's most important is stuff around the outside of the bus. But because of the low tolerance for different shades of white and gray, the windshield was not selected. We don't want the windshield selected. The wheels were selected. It's not going to be a problem. If you want to, you can always use Option and then your circular marquee and then deselect the wheels. But this is just a tracing layer. So I left it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear that out so that when I do that, you'll see my banner behind the bus. So I go to clear, and now you can see the wheels too. I'm not worried about the hubcaps. The only part of the wheels I'm worried about in the end are the wheel wells, because those would disrupt part of my design. So you can see I got rid of that. This is one layer. Right now it's opaque. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit so I can see my banner through the bus. You get that? And I'm not going to work on this tracing layer. I'm just going to leave it alone, but it's going to be transparent enough that I can look in and maneuver things behind it. Okay, I cleared. I'm going to deselect. And after deselecting, I've got to move my menu. It says master opacity. So what I've done is I've taken the opacity layer, or the opacity control of the bus layer itself, and you can see I've made it more transparent, so I can start rearranging these items and see how they're going to be affected. I could do it just without the bus and hope that it worked out, but this way I've always got the bus there as a trace, and so I don't waste my time putting things. I will a little bit, but won't waste a lot of time putting things where they shouldn't go. And actually, it's not a waste of time if it's part of an experiment. Okay, after that, I'm going to lock the bus layer, the tracing layer. And then I used my free transform tool. You saw how the Jetson thing over here, it turned 90 degrees, and I moved it to the back of the bus. Yeah? Okay, that's the first change to the banner. Next, let's see, maybe another couple of free transforms happening here. The Capri sign. I rolled it over to the 90 degrees counterclockwise. I moved the boss and Clarence. I moved them up towards the front of the bus, made them a little bit bigger. The girl's head has been slid down the page, but I kind of like her sideways like that. I can't drop her in vertically, but I can certainly, I want her head to be seen in an unusual manner. I'm just moving items around. Now, did you see what happened there? What I did was, I've been moving each one of the elements. We were right here. So Olivia's head's here. It's still going to be this very strange thing going by in the bus. Instead of driving by, seeing her upside down, she's going to drive by sideways. And then I wanted more of this mid-century modern, the squares, so I'm going to copy the layer, or I think I might have used click Option drag and dragged it to the back of the bus, so I have 2 copies of it. Everybody knows that command, that the Option drag gives you an automatic copy that you can place the shift key, keeps it constrained horizontally, vertically, or at 45 degrees. To watch the squares, I've added them to the back. I've moved them. Now there's a free transform coming up. Let's see the free transform again. The squares go to the back. And did you see that the squares rotated? Just to, again, I don't want the front and the back to be exactly the same. So it looks like what I do is I took it and rotated it either 90 or 180 degrees. So I've got a new pattern of squares, rectangles. Next thing is a move. We're going to move something. Did you see what moved? Did you see the Capri sign move? Yeah, no? Should I show it again?
Sure.
Capri sign is up here, and it was getting obscured, so I drag it to a spot where I'll be able to see it better. There's the squares. Rotated. Now Capri is going to move towards the back of the bus. There it is right there. And now I'm going to change some layer orders. What I did right there was I can do that. Nope. Okay, it was here. We slid it over to here. It's out in the open more, but it's still a little obscured. So I'm going to bring it towards the front of the layer stack. Okay, there's a layer order. You see how it's much more visible at this point? And don't forget that top layer of the bus is eventually going away. So there's a couple more layer orders and then a blending change. So the next thing we're going to do is see another change in the layers. Okay, it's right there. And then a blending change. So what I've got here is in the layer order, I think at this point, no, not yet, but I brought Capri here. I brought it out so it's sitting on top of Olivia and Green and everything else. And then the blending change was, sorry about that. The blending change was to multiply the red Capri sign into all the colors behind it. You can see down here a little bit of the results. You see how it's gone to a much darker maroon, which I like, except for in the middle here. I want to see more of the Capri sign. So what I want to do is, and we'll see the steps as I go, but I'm going to make a duplicate of the Capri sign and put it right in front of the other one. And then what I'm going to do is get rid of everything that's the red Capri delta and the words that's not being multiplied into the background. So all we're going to see is the area that sits in here, that sits on top of Olivia's hair and sits on top of Springsteen's shoulder. The rest of the stuff, I want to leave it like this. I like this. Okay, so I duped the layer. And I'm changing the order a little bit of the layers, restacking them. And make a blending change. Now you see how it's become bright orange again? But my goal is to have the top and the bottom of the deltas multiply, overprint the background, make them look like they're overprinting. So they're going to be deeper colors. But this section right in here, I want to have it be bright orange. So what I have to do is I have to figure out which areas are going to be multiplied and which ones aren't, and subtract the ones that aren't multiplying from the deeper multiplied colors. Is this making sense? We'll have this all recorded. You can go back and listen again. But this area right here, I want to stay bright orange red. This area here and this area here, I want to go into the deeper colors. So you can see down here, I'm going to select canvas, create a channel, paste in place, all this stuff right here. What I'm going to do is create a channel out of Olivia's head. So the next thing I do is I'm going to select the whole canvas. And then I'm creating a new channel, brand new blank channel. And then in that channel, I'm going to paste in place only Olivia's head, the black. And then activate the channel. You're familiar with how we do this, right? This is just like doing a spot color. And here, now that I've gotten rid of the bus, because I've got things pretty much placed where I want them, I'm getting rid of the bus for a while. And what's happened is I've activated the channel, and then I'm going to go back into the top red Capri channel. And what I want to have happen is everything that's sitting on top of the black, I want to have it be nice and bright. This, I want to reveal the exact same layer behind it at a deeper color. So I've selected Olivia's head. That's actually the area that I want to have bright red. So I'm going to select the inverse. Give it a minute. There you go. Now it's the exact opposite of the selection. Now what I've actually selected, and you can tell because of the marquee way out here, this marquee is exactly the same. It looks exactly the same. It's exactly the opposite, but it looks exactly the same. You can tell I selected inverse because I had this all out here. And when I clear, you can see the next move here is clear. When I hit clear, I'm on the top red Capri layer. What it's going to do is it's going to delete everything out here outside of the black from that red Capri channel, and it's going to reveal that second channel behind it that's deep red because it's overprinting. You ready? Okay, it's going to go to clear in a second. Okay, you see how it cleared everything around the outside except that center section of Capri? So I've got a Capri, they're exactly the same number of pixels in the same number of places. But I got rid of everything except the bright red on top of the black. So this looks like one sign now that's painted basically in two colors. So that is, I mean, essentially that's the knockout we do when we did spot color. Except this time I didn't want to reveal white, I wanted to reveal the dark red. Okay, we're going to deselect so we get a good look at it. That's what it should look like. Now I have to slide the history up a little bit. Or I think we're at the end of the history right there. So we're at the end of the first batch here. So let's wait and see what happens. Okay, turn the bus back on again. And now I can again look and see, are there any problems with placements? Everything looks pretty good in terms of placement. I got Clarence and Boss up front. So they're driving the bus, literally and figuratively. In the wheel wells, I'm not worried about stuff, but what I want to do is I want to place, there we go, guidelines that show me I need to add text to this. So what I'm doing is dropping guidelines here that show me where the wheels are, the wheel wells are, and the bottom of the bus. And that tells me within those spots I should not place text. So I'm designing directly for the bus now. There should be one more coming up. Or maybe not. So I'm going to put text in, and that text has got to fit in this spot or in this area. Just stay out of this one right here, this column. Stay out of that and keep it above the bottom of the bus. I'm going to create a couple of labels for this. I think the labels are it's a traveling tour of the Jetsons and Springsteen, and it's going to have a date on it. So I'm placing you can see where the Jetsons are, I think, up front, inside the Command T handles right now. Now I don't want to make the letters any smaller. I do want to make them more visible. So now they're white. Okay. Now I could make them smaller, they'll fit in the front, but I don't know if I'd experimented or not. Sorry, this is all in real time from last night. There we go. We can see it, what it looks like. The white letters look good. Edit, transform, Command T. Ah, that looks bad. What else can I do to make them bigger? I'll try rotating them. Using Shift, it locks it to 90 degrees. I'm going to move it, make sure the J is above the bottom of the bus. And then, oh, I'm distorting it again. I don't like that. So I'll do it constrained. So now I've got the Jetsons about as large as I can get it. And it's going all the way up the top to the top of the bus. So one successful piece of type. Next one's going to be Springsteen. And again, I have to size it right. And I could use the type tool and start guessing, but when I use Command T and drag, much faster and easier. And since I'm not doing a print text document, the exact type size doesn't matter. Okay, kind of like that. All right, we're going to check color, I think, on this one next. And bright yellow. That works. Let's try the Jetsons. What are we doing with the Jetsons this time? I think we're changing color again. We're now to a cyan. I think the cyan still works. And you can see I'm experimenting, trying to add to this very bright color palette. Oh, good, they're coming to town on my birthday. I placed that. I'll probably resize that a little bit. And then I want to have each title in a different color. Select that. And put that in magenta. See how that looks. Wouldn't want it for my living room, but I really like it for the side of a bus. You will not miss that. And it does carry the same colors and shapes and everything as the Jetsons cartoon show. So now I'm saving this, which is always a good idea. And this is still flat side of bus, step 10.psd. It's not a piece of the graphic river bus yet. So we've got another 5 or 7 minutes to go. After this, we'll take a break. Okay, I'm saving it as. It needs to be a JPEG. So I want to make sure I've saved it as a PSD with all those layers. And then I'm going to save it a second time as a JPEG because I only want to add one layer to the big bus smart objects. Otherwise, this thing would be out of control. It'd be so huge. So I've saved both. And what I'm doing is that right now I'm looking for, there we go. That is the bus, and it's going to go on this side of the bus. We have to figure out how we get it there. Now, let's stop for a second. Open up, please, OnePSD. For those of you playing at home. You can also see Chris had a question in the other class about image quality. The image option quality, if I'm doing a photograph, then I want to go for high image, very high, largest quality. I'm only dealing with a very few colors here. You know, that's part of the spot process. We got 5 or 6 colors at the most that we're using. So when I lower the quality of the image, it's really not lowering the quality of the image. What I'm doing is I'm lowering the number of colors it's going to use. So instead of using 26 million, it might use 16 million. It might use 16,000 colors. It will decide on the right number of colors for this JPEG based on my choice if I want it to be high quality, but not absolutely perfect, not absolutely 26 million. So that's what that image option quality means. We backed up a little bit. So we're going to open up. There we go. And what we have open right now, if you look up to the top, it's this right here. Okay, I was working on the side of the bus.psd. Now I'm opened up along with it, flat side of bus 10, step 10.jpg. So this is now one flat image. I have to move you guys out of the way for a second, but you see how it's only one layer over here? We've gone from 15 or whatever down to one layer because this is, at this point, what I'm going to consider the finished design. The reason I saved the other one as a PSD is if I put this on the bus and it doesn't work out, I can go back to that PSD with all its layers, move things around, rearrange them, get them satisfactory, save it as a PSD, and then I'll save it again as a JPEG. So with the rearranging items, I want all my layers. But when it comes to placing this on the side of the bus, I want it all in one layer. Okay, what are we doing here? Showing you it's a flat side of the bus. Now we're copying everything. Select all, copy. And I'm looking for OnePSD. Run. So I've got all this copied into one layer. This is the bus in 3D. But remember, when you come over here and you double click, whoops, get back here, you scoundrel. Stop that for a second. Whoops, gotta keep going. Remember the golden layers inside of these PSD mockups? There's several layers that have gold at the icon, next to the icon, at the eyeball, instead of the regular colors. Okay, select all. Again, this is a repeat. Copy. Then go look for bus 1 or OnePSD. Now look over here, you can see these eyeballs, the side also, they're all in gold. That means that those use smart objects. And when you double click on these, on the icon, you double click, it opens up the smart object. And you can put things inside the smart object. The smart object is a flat view of the side of the bus or the area of the bus. And then once you save that, then it will wrap it onto the bus. So I'm going to double click on your side graphic, right on the icon, and you get this. This is part of that OnePSD. So the only time you can really see that is when you are in one PSD, the full mock-up, and you go to one of the gold layers and double click on it, and then Photoshop releases the big rectangle. And this was a rectangle I started with at the very beginning. And I'm taking, it's hard to tell, but I went back to, actually, I have the side of the bus JPEG already selected, copied, and it's waiting in RAM. It's in the cache. So that when I open up this, all I need to do is paste. And it'll paste it in place. I can always move it if I want to, but it pasted it right in the middle because of the same size. And you can see that layer here is sitting above replace with your own graphic. I don't replace that layer, replace with your own graphic. What I do is I allow one layer on top of another so I can test them. And you'll see in a minute how I do that. If I add another layer that's different from this one on top of this, I'll have, you know, layer 2, layer 1, and then replace. And I can choose which one's visible. So it's pasted in there. It's inside of layer 11.psb. You'll notice it doesn't say side of bus flat. It's a layer inside of Photoshop that the creator has named 11 because there's a bunch of layers. It's a PSB. Now the only real difference between a PSB and a PSD, or practical difference, is that PSBs are meant to handle very large files. I think if you exceed 2 gigs, it must be a PSB. It also allows you to create a smart object that can be mapped. And that's what the PSB layer here is for. Have you guys ever used smart objects or symbols in Illustrator?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you've taken the animation class, we use symbols in Animate. They are saved differently. They have a different purpose than a regular color layer. So now we've got this PSB, which is the smart, will become the smart object. And we've got it placed on this layer 11 PSB. You can't get to layer 11 PSB except by going through 1.psd, the bus, and double clicking on the side, and then this can come up. You can't find it any other way. Okay, wants to know if I'm going to save changes to the Adobe Photoshop document. So I saved the changes. The change was adding that. Oops. The change was adding this layer in there. So now I'm going to close it so I can use it. I can leave it open too, but I'm going to save it no matter what. And once I've saved it, it becomes a permanent part of that whole bus mockup. Becomes a permanent part of 1.psd. You can change the name of the original PSD. I could change 1PSD to coachbus.psd, but I can't change the names of any of the other layers. Okay, we're going to save it again. And it's going to open up one. Save it before closing. Yep. And when I close it, it should automatically open up the big PSD. And that's my first look at it. Okay. So far, so good. You see how all that worked? But now there's a couple more things to look at over here on this side. You can have, we all know we see buses that are completely wrapped, and the windows are actually, the wrap on the windows are perforated so the passengers inside can see out. But because of what's called a scrim effect, if the outside is brighter than the inside, we cannot see into it through the perf. But because the outside is brighter than the inside, the passengers can see out. Now these, I'm going to be playing with these layers here in a minute. Okay, I'm going down to probably some of the glass. Okay, I just turned off this one called glass side. Okay, you can see it's a mask. You're familiar, it's a smart object that's connected to a mask. And when I turn off that glass side there, it actually reveals the mask. And you can see what happens. I've got the windows here. Now I see how they relate to my design. And I can see that Jetsons is chopped off. I can see it lost Clarence Clements and Bruce Springsteen. And so it's not a great design anymore. Now I'm looking at it going, ooh, that's not so good. So I'm going to have to make changes to it. Okay, we're going to go to demo horizontal PSD. Nope. I'm looking for something up there. Okay, went back to this flat side of the bus, but not the JPEG. I went to flat side of bus step number 10 PSD, because now I know I have to move Jetsons. I have to do something with these guys in order to make this a readable advertisement on the side of this bus. I'm going to go to Jetsons. I'm going to move Jetsons. Okay, vertically, because of the windows, I'm going to keep the windows exposed. I can't put the Jetsons vertically. It solved a problem for me earlier, but in the overall picture, it doesn't. It creates a bigger problem for me. There's Command T. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Let's put it on top of Springsteen. Flush left, and then I go, no, I'll go flush right. And when I get it flush right, I go, no, look at the ends. I'm going to make those ends align perfectly with each other. So I've got a little bit of alignment going there that helps with its the structure of this. So I'm going to save it again, this time again as a Photoshop document. It's a PSD. And then I'll save it a second time as a JPEG. Okay, there's the JPEG. What I'm going to do is copy the entire design after I've placed it in here. There's the new design. See all the layers. We're in PSD again. I need to grab all this stuff. I went and closed the old JPEG. I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to resave this one and replace that previous JPEG. So it's still going to carry the same name. Flat. It says, do I want to replace it? Yep. My JPEG options is still going to be flat side of bus step 10. But now I've got a PSD version with all the layers. And I just created a JPEG. And when you create a JPEG, you get a flat image. Now here I want to open up the side again. Okay, that's the old one that's buried inside layer 11 PSB, buried inside the bus. And I'm going to take a copy of the JPEG with a new design to it. I have as much trouble finding documents as you guys do. Okay, I'm looking for that JPEG. There it is. I'm going to open it up. Select all. Copy. There's a select all. I've copied it. It's in cache now. It's in RAM. I'm going to go back to layer 11 PSB. And I'm going to paste it in here. Got rid of the new one. The old one, paste in the new one. I'm still with a blue layer and my design layer. And now if I save this, it will then apply it to the side of the bus. And we can open up 1.psd and see the changes. Okay, so that's layer 11.psb. You can see a little cursor circling it. I'm going to open up 1. Now you see the changes in the design. Now we can see the Jetsons. We can see Springsteen. Whoops. Let it keep going. Okay, back to this. Now, if you look, I've solved the Jetsons problem with the windows. I can read that, I can read that, I can read June 25th. Anybody have a guess on what what definitely needs to be redesigned, rearranged on this to make it a viable design for what we want to do? Applying it to the bus, like we just did, what's wrong? There's one big omission at this point.
What?
Okay. Where is Clemens? Where's the big man and the boss?
You can't see them.
Can't see them. We took their heads off with the windows, right? So the next thing we're going to do, I think this is going to wrap up in a minute here. We'll take our break. And then after that, I think the next sequence shows you how I correct for that problem. So let's just let the last 36 seconds go here. And it may just be 36 seconds of me admiring my work. Yep. This is the program I use, Capto. Does a very nice job of capturing the full screen at full resolution. And a lot of other things too. So we'll take a break here, but have you understood what I've been trying to do and the process here?
Yes.
It's an involved process. It's like doing underpaintings in Nathan's class, and then lines, or inking underneath a painting, or a series of sketches before you start an illustration, and then building on those sketches. You don't just sit down and plop it on there. It takes time to develop these things. And we all need to learn how to use Photoshop the same way we use layers in paint, and the same way we use layers in watercolors, etc. So this is a tool that's just as delicate a medium as the others. But it's really, once you've learned it, there's so much you can do with it. It's great that we're going to have these 3D buses, and it's great that you're going to learn how to do mapping, etc. We could do it onto a train. We can do it onto a different kind of bus. Once you've learned those steps, it's really the same thing over and over again, the actual mapping. But the experimentation and going back and forth and anticipating what something's going to look like. How do you set something up so that, like with the transparency of the side of the bus, so that when you do the original, without that transparency, you could spend hours and hours and hours just guessing on where things were going to go. But if you use Photoshop tools right, it will allow you to design whatever it is you want to design. So it's 1:40. Why don't we come back at 2 o'clock? Give you guys a break. And the last one is a little bit shorter. And it's really just going to show you how I solved the problem with Clarence Clements and Springsteen. And we'll play around a little bit with some of those masks on the side. And there is no place you can go for the book on how do you use PSD mockups. You'll see what I do. Sometimes I hit the right button, sometimes I don't. You experiment, and you learn it's just like any other thing. You pick up a red pencil and a blue pencil, what's going to happen when they overlap? You don't know until you try it. All right, so take 20, and we'll start with the second piece. All right?
Okay.
Take a break. That's where we stopped off. And we said that this was no good because we can't see the two boys up the front there. So staying in Photoshop, this is still, you know, if you look up here, you can tell which one I'm in, one PSD. And I want to get their faces down to here. Oops, sorry. So what we do is we go back, and you can see I'm back in flat side of bus, step 10 PSD again. I'm going to make the changes to this. I'm going to make these guys smaller, bring them down to the front. I know there's a spot right here. There's a wheel well right there. So it should start with selecting a layer. Yep. Dragging it. Looking at it going, well, I'm in the middle of the wheel well. That's right where Springsteen's head is. If I go this far forward, it clears the wheel well. I'm going to reduce the size a little bit. There we go. Now there's a space for the wheel. It's below the driver's window, which is going to be up here. Okay, I'm going to go to the JPEG, the old JPEG. I may close that and then save this as flat side of bus step 10 JPEG. I called it B so I can go back to the other one later, and I think I'm going to layer, I think I layered these up inside of the 11.psb. So we're in the PSD right now. We need to get access to the JPEG. So it becomes a JPEG. I'm going to open the JPEG. And then it will select all. We'll copy the whole document, the whole canvas. We'll open up the side of the bus, the smart object. Okay, you see it's got two layers, layer 1 and replace. And we're looking at the old version of the side of the bus. That's the new version. Select all. Copy. Go back to 11 PSB. And this time I just pasted it in. Where are the controls on this thing? There they are. Okay, when I pasted this in, I have two different versions here. You can keep as many versions as you want so that you can go back and forth. It's as close as you can get to layer comping in these PSD mockups. And again, we're saving it so it becomes the smart object that we need. We'll then go to one PSD. We'll see how it works on the bus. Okay, there's the new version, but there's a problem again. The end of Olivia's head, this gets chopped off right there. The hair gets chopped right off. So what I'm going to do is, I remember I had these guys up here. I couldn't see their faces. All I could see was the black jacket and a little bit of the shoulder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to put it back where it was, and it'll blend in nicely here, but I'll leave a copy of it right there too. So we go back to the PSD. Select the right layer. Not that one. Still searching for that layer. So, hit it again. It's still the same. It's not going to change it. So we need a copy of that layer. And we blow it back up again. Okay, drag it down. Make a copy. Boss big man copy. Boss big copy. Command T. I'm on the copy layer. I drag it back up to where it was. It was much bigger before. Make it much bigger, so it's about the same size as it was. Slide it over so we get this nice lack of a sharp edge right there. But this stuff will never be seen. Okay, we're going to have to save that. Go through the whole routine with making it a JPEG. So we'll have both a PSD copy and a JPEG copy. Save, save, save. Then we need to get into it, make sure we're in the JPEG, not the PSD. That's the old JPEG. That's the new PSD. Save as. There we go. We've got a JPEG. We need to open the JPEG once we have it there. That's it. That's the preview, spacebar preview. Open it. That's the JPEG. It's all one layer. Perfect. That's what we want. Select all. We copy that one flat layer. We're going to move it back over. Paste it into layer 11.psb. I didn't want to close that. I was working in the wrong document. Getting late. Okay, there's two layers on top of replace your own graphic. I can either replace that layer or just drop another one on top. Now, if I wanted to, I can turn things on and off and take a look at each one individually. And like I said, that's the closest you're going to get to layer comps in this kind of exercise. Okay, we're going to open up the bus PSD. There we go. We're going to open up the side, double clicking on the icon. And then you can see it. There's the big piece of Springsteen and Clements, and you can't see what that is, but it does a nice job of creating a smooth transition towards the front of the bus. There's a smaller version. Now let me hit stop for a second. So we've got a nice design now. It's working. The name of the, I don't know, the name of the venue is the Capri. And it's in the Astro Room. And it's the Jetsons and Springsteen performing on June 25th. And we see some of the Jetson stuff here, and we see some of Springsteen stuff here. And we've got a good design. And now we have the glass showing. Okay, everything, there's nothing cut out that we don't want cut out. And you can see it goes right up the edge of the windows here, in between all the struts. So it's a very nice PSD mock-up. But there's a couple other things you can do with it. And the first thing we're going to do is, it's the edges of the window. These windows, the shapes are correct, but they look cut out. They look like paper cutouts. So if we go to one of the pieces over on the side, we turn on the glass trim, and now we've got that black trim you see around all the windows. So it's looking much nicer now. Well, I think I do one or two more things over there. There we go. You see how I turned off, this time you can't see it over here now, but it's the front of the bus. It's turned on and off. So we either see the blue, or if I go to the golden layer, I backed up, we'll see the trim put back on. And then if you go to the golden layer and just turn off the visibility of the golden layer, you're not going to see the blue on the front of the bus. But that's the area that you have to design for. Not the whole front of the bus, but that blue area you see, that's what you're designing for the front of the bus. There's your side of the bus. And then I'm going to open up another version of the bus. Okay, I'm playing with the glass tinting, tinted glass, not tinted glass. Just play with the things over there. They're interesting. That's the model itself. Okay, there's a shadow that you can manipulate. You can make it stronger. You can make it more transparent. There is, as you saw the other day, a background layer. You can enter a background layer. I could take a shot of Springsteen in concert and put it behind the whole thing to give it context. Okay, make sure you save it. And if you look way down here, it's almost a 1 gigabyte file. So make sure you get all the junk off your computer that you don't need. Store it, back it up, archive it, put it onto a hard drive. You're going to need a lot of scratch disk, a lot of open hard drive to work in Photoshop. All right. You get the basic idea, what you're going to be doing, but you've got to do 3 surfaces. I did the side of the bus. If I go back to share screen, I need to get into Finder for a second. $27,119. The next 2 surfaces are really pretty quick and easy, especially after that long one. Okay, share screen. I mentioned and showed you the blue strip along the front of the bus underneath the windshield, and then also the back of the bus. You do the same thing with the front of the bus that you did with the side of the bus. You're going to need, I would always work with a screenshot of this. And then all you've got to do is redesign something in the front here. You don't have to redesign the whole thing. Not at all. I might put just the white Astroland on there maybe. Or you could put a date across there, because anything else you put onto, here's that golden layer, that's where you're going to paste your design for the front of the bus, but anything above here won't be seen. So think about how you would design this right here. And then, did you see the front of the bus? You guys there?
Yeah.
Did you see the front of the bus? Am I
I can't
muted?
see it right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Go like this? You can hear me. Okay. Did you see the front of the bus when I was talking about it?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It's me. I'm the fool. I have my volume turned off.
Oh,
I apologize to everybody. So you've been hearing me at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I had turned the volume off because, Stephen, you left your music playing during the break. So we were listening to it, so I turned my computer's volume off. And then I decided to yell at everybody instead. Get off my lawn, you kids.
yeah. I unmuted too. Told Mario his sound was on, and then I forgot to mute myself.
Okay. But you understand the front and the back is the same way. You just open the back, it shows, except the back, it's the full back of the bus. And just to show you, okay, can you see the, the Photoshop file opening?
Yeah.
Okay. I won't yell at you anymore. That was the Australia bus that I did as a demo. You've got all this right here, and it's got the cool eyes and stuff right here, but you can't get all that on the front of the bus. So what I did was I just actually made two eyeballs, put them on the front of the bus. You just need a little thing that, like, at the front, it's going to be, what's that coming down the street? So it'll catch their attention, and they'll look at the side of the bus as it goes by. And let me see if I have a back to the bus. That's the piece that I just reflected and made googly eyes out of and stuck on the front. So again, you don't have to redesign or redo the whole design. You need to do a little bit that captures my attention, make sure it fits the front area.
Sounds good.
All right, good. Yeah, I'm sorry about yelling at you because my volume button was off.
It's okay.
Yeah, wasn't a good moment for me. Okay. So get to it. If you have any questions, send me a text message if it's a reasonable hour. If it's an unreasonable hour, send an email. And then I'll get back to you with trying to answer your question. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, have fun.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.